Hello everybody, this is Remy from the Sample Seed Shop, and I'm here to do a video answering questions for Blake and Sophie in particular, but a few other people asked questions. Blake and Sophie are doing seed starting for their science project for their homeschooling, being that they're out right now, and I have a bunch of questions, and we're going to go through them and hopefully answer everybody's questions. Okay. What type of seeds do I start indoors? Well, that would be things that take a long time to get going, like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. Okay, I have some right over here growing, and the peppers are still coming up, but the tomatoes are doing real well. And as you can see, I'm petting them because they need to be petted. Don't be afraid to pet your plants. It keeps them strong. Okay. Um, do they need a certain amount of soil to start? Well, when you do seed starting, you start off with little containers like these Jiffy pellets, okay? Or your tray that I'd be separating them up and putting them in there. This has Pro Mix in it, which is a seed starting mix, okay? How many seeds to a hole? Well, as you can see, with these tomatoes, I put a lot of seeds in each one, okay? They can be put in there like that. They will get separated into their own little containers, or you can kill off the extras. When I separate them, I'm going to use a nut picker, but you need something sharp, and I'll show that real fast, just how it goes. I stick it in there, and I pick it out real careful, and then I can loosen it up, and then I can transplant it over into the other container. Okay? All right. So, do seeds need a certain position to grow better? Well, I think this meant for bigger seeds that will be started later on, like your squash or your beans. These are large seeds, and they have an end that the seed comes out of, okay, that it breaks dormancy out of. Those spots should go downwards to make it easier for the plant. I mean, you can do it sideways too, but you don't want to, the bean has that little spot, you don't want it coming up, you want it down. And you would use a bigger container later on if you don't do it directly in the ground, like this. Put some soil in there and have them in there downwards. For something small like tomatoes or peppers, it doesn't really matter. Though the thing that people do make a mistake about a lot is they plant them too deep. Don't plant your seeds too shallower is better. Okay? The smaller the seed, the closer to the surface. If they're dust seeds, right on top, they don't get buried at all. Okay, where do I put my tray? Okay, well, if you don't have a light set up, and there are inexpensive ways to build them online, you can look with PVC pipe and shop lights and whatnot. If you have a good window that faces south or west or whatever, that gets a lot of sun, you can do it, and you don't need lights. You do need, for these kind of tomatoes and that, the seed heat mat, okay? Your house might be 70 degrees, but that soil needs to be warmer. Those seeds aren't going to come up, all right? And the seed mats aren't very expensive, and they last forever. Okay. Now you can see, I have near a window here. I don't have any lights on it, but the big thing is to keep petting them multiple times a day. It makes them very strong. It's scientifically proven. I mean, you can talk to them at the same time and tell them how wonderful they are. And then the other problem people make, I think there was watering. How much water? When you first start, you want this to be very damp because the soil has to stay moist till they come up. Once they come up, you have to sort of hold back on that water. You don't want them to be too wet. Too wet can cause problems. You can end up getting bad fungus. And then your seedlings can drop dead real fast. It's called damping off. And that is prevented by not too much water, and also using good seed starting mix and good sanitation. If you're reusing stuff year to year, I recommend spraying everything first to make sure it's nice and sterile before you go ahead and do it again. Okay, because and then if you do get damping off, hold back on the water. Cinnamon, sprinkling cinnamon on the soil will help cure it. Okay. Now, does it matter if they're warm or cold? Well, these kind of seeds, it does matter if they're warm. Certain seeds, though, like cold, okay? Things in the cabbage family. They actually can be started in little pots outside when it's cold out. Lettuce. You can do lettuce in shallow pots before it gets nice outside, and you'll have little baby lettuce coming up really early, okay? So each family has a different set temperature that they like to germinate at, and that's easy to find online, okay? When do you take the lid off? Okay, you don't even really need the lid to begin with if you keep it moist enough. But if you, once the seedlings start coming up, you need to take it off. I use the lid more for more sturdiness underneath my trays, as opposed to using them for a lid. Okay, anything that makes the plants grow faster. Not when they're babies. Okay, when they're babies, when they come up. Right now, these are the cotyledons. All right, that's what's on these tomatoes right now. The true leaves are going to pop up very soon, okay? Once the, and these here, these baby leaves that aren't the true leaves, give seedlings all the nutrition they need. If you fertilize them right now, you're going to overfeed them, which is not good. Those leaves will, the baby leaves, these cotyledons, will eventually turn yellow and drop off. And at that point, if they're not in the ground yet, you can use a weak fertilizer. But usually they're okay. So once the tomato plant ends up looking like this, in small size of course, once it gets to this size, it needs to be transplanted out of the little container because the roots are going to get bigger. Once those roots get bigger, you're going to want to put it into a different container, like a solo cup or a coffee cup, something that's got a deepness to it, especially for tomatoes because they make roots. So what happens is, let me draw this real fast. So there's your plant and the roots in the little soil ball. When you get your cup, you're going to bury it so that it comes all the way up to the baby leaves. Okay? So the baby leaves are just on the soil surface, and then the more roots are going to grow all inside of the cup. So you don't want to bury to where it actually was before you put it in the cup. I hope that makes sense. Now, let's see what the next question is. Should you use a ruler to see how much it grows? Well, if you're into that kind of thing, you can measure it. You'd be surprised how much a plant can grow in a day. When you go to sleep, you get up the next day, you can be like, wow, it grew a lot overnight. Okay, on average, how long does it take a plant to grow if you take good care of it? Well, that is all dependent on the kind of plant. Some plants are genetically built to grow very fast. Some start off slow. A lot of the ones that start off slow are a longer-lived plant. Okay, when they talk about vines, you often hear first year they sleep, second year they creep, third year they leap. And that's because that kind of plant has a long life cycle. Whereas opposed to an annual fast-growing flower, they'll grow really fast and bloom a lot and bloom, 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 and then they drop dead by the end of the year. So it's all the type of plant. Okay. Now, so by the time it gets to this size, that's the time you got to move it in and outside. It gets a little bit of sun at first. If you do it too fast, you can kill your plants. Okay, so that's called hardening off. Now, I got some questions about the actual growing outside once things go outside.